Superior pond, superior care, your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year long.
Okay, so you know how everyone dreams about having like a little retreat, right in their backyard, something peaceful, a pond maybe, but then you start thinking about the cost and it's like, whoa, how much is this going to set me back?
Yeah, it could be a real mystery. Like, are we talking a few $100 or a second mortgage?
Right. I mean, I don't want to go into this blindly.
And you shouldn't have to. That's where diving into this guide from Superior Ponds today, they're all about transparency when it comes to pricing.
So no sticker shock.
Ideally, no.
Well,
We're going to break down all the things that can affect the cost of your dream pond.
So by the end of this, we'll be like pond pros,
Okay.
armed and dangerous with knowledge. Okay, so Superior Ponds lists a bunch of factors. I was surprised it's not just the size of the pond that matters.
Oh, it's way more than that. Think of it like building a tiny house, but with water.
Okay, I like where this is going.
You've got the basic structure, the size, how deep you want it. Then there's all the systems, like filtration. And don't forget the landscaping. Even the time of year can play a role.
Wait, really? Time of year?
Yeah, think about it. If you want to install a pond in the middle of winter when the ground's frozen solid, that's going to require some serious equipment or a lot of extra labor to dig, which means more money.
Makes sense. So it's not just what I want in my pond, but when I want it done.
Exactly. Timing is everything.
All right, so speaking of what we want in the pond, let's talk about filtration.
Yes, filtration. This is where things can get interesting and potentially pricey.
Uh-oh, pricey is not my favorite word.
Well, you have options. You could go with a basic system. Might seem cheaper up front.
I like the sound of that.
But in the long run, you could end up spending more on maintenance.
Oh, so more work for me.
Potentially. With a basic system, you might be cleaning filters more often, dealing with murky water, maybe even some costly repairs down the line.
No thanks, I'm too lazy for that.
All right. Now, a more advanced system, it might cost more up front, but it can save you so much hassle in the long run. Clear water, healthy environment for your fish, less work for you.
So it's like an investment in peace of mind.
Exactly.
I can get behind that.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about size, filtration, timing. What about all the pretty stuff? Landscaping, rocks, waterfalls, all that jazz.
Oh yeah, the aesthetics. That definitely plays a role in the cost.
I bet.
Are we talking a few simple stones around the edge? Or are we going full-on Japanese garden with a waterfall cascading over boulders?
Well, a Japanese garden sounds amazing, but my bank account might disagree.
Yeah, that's the thing. Every decision you make adds another layer to the cost.
Starting to see how this all adds up.
That's the beauty of it. You have so many choices.
So where do we even begin?
Well, Superior Ponds has a pretty cool system. 3 tiers of pricing.
Oh, tell me more about that.
They've got Silver Essentials, Gold Standard, and then the VIP stress-free package.
So it's like levels of pond luxury.
Exactly.
I'm intrigued. Let's break it down. What's the Silver Essentials package all about?
So think of it as the basic package, but not basic in a bad way. It covers all the essentials. You get excavation, a liner, a simple filtration system, and some basic landscaping.
Sounds like a good starting point, but what if I want a little something extra?
Then you move up to the Gold Standard. It builds on the Silver package, but with some nice upgrades, like a better filtration system that requires less maintenance from you, more interesting rock work, maybe even a small waterfall or a stream.
Ooh, a waterfall. Now we're talking. But hold on, there's one more package, right? The VIP stress-free. What's that all about?
That's for the people who want the ultimate pond experience. They handle everything from custom rock formations to high-end filtration. You just relax and enjoy your little slice of paradise.
Wow, that sounds amazing. But with all these options, it's kind of overwhelming. How do I know what's right for me?
That's a great question. And that's where Superior Ponds really emphasizes.
Hold on. Before we get into that, let's take a breath. Let's let all this sink in for our listeners. If you're dreaming of a pond, think about what matters most to you. What's your vision? And what's your budget? We'll come back to Superior Ponds' approach in a bit. But for now, just let those ideas simmer. All right, so we've talked about all the things that can add to the cost of a pond. Size, filtration, even like unearthing a P-Rex skeleton in your backyard.
Hopefully not that.
You never know, but yeah, it all adds up.
Speaking of adding up, we should probably talk about how those costs actually translate into, real numbers.
Right, get down to the nitty-gritty.
Superior Ponds breaks it down with their 3-tier system, remember?
Oh yeah, the silver, gold, and VIP packages. It's like choosing your level of pond luxury.
Exactly.
But before we get too carried away with waterfalls and fancy rocks, there's something we haven't really talked about.
What's that?
Maintenance.
The not-so-fun part everyone forgets about until it's too late.
Right.
But it's super important to factor that into your decision.
So how much maintenance are we really talking about here? I'm picturing myself spending every weekend scrubbing algae.
No one wants that. That's why having the right filtration system is so crucial.
Okay, so Superior Ponds keeps mentioning this. What's the big deal with filtration?
Remember the stats we talked about earlier? A good filtration system can literally cut your maintenance time in half.
Seriously?
Yeah, up to 50%.
That's huge. So basically, I'm buying myself more free time to actually enjoy my pond.
You got it. It's like choosing between spending your weekend cleaning or relaxing by the water.
Okay, I'm sold on the good filtration. But how do I know what kind I need?
That depends on a few things. The size of your pond, what kind of plants and fish you have, things like that.
Okay, let's say I'm going for the koi pond look.
Koi ponds. Beautiful, but those fish can be little poop machines.
No way, really.
Oh yeah, they produce a lot more waste than your average goldfish.
So I'm guessing they need a pretty heavy-duty filtration system.
You would be correct. When I say heavy duty, I mean a multi-stage system that can handle anything. From big stuff like leaves and twigs to tiny particles you can't even see.
Sounds pretty high-tech.
It is. Usually involves a combo of mechanical, biological, and sometimes even UV filtration.
Okay, starting to get a little lost in the technical jargon here. But the bottom line is, good filtration equals a healthy pond, right?
Exactly. It keeps the water clean, prevents bacteria from building up, and keeps your fish happy.
All right, so we've talked a lot about superior ponds, but I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, can I just do this myself?
Yeah.
What about the DIY approach?
Well, I applaud anyone who can be, but building a pond is a little more complicated than putting together some IKEA furniture.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that.
You got water dynamics, soil composition, liner installation, maybe even some electrical work if you're adding pumps or lights.
That sounds like a lot to handle.
It can be. And remember that stat from the Aquatic Ecosystem Restoration Foundation?
Oh yeah, the one about DIY ponds being more prone to problems.
Exactly. Leaks, structural issues, filtration nightmares. You could end up spending way more trying to fix those problems than if you'd hired a pro in the first place.
So sometimes it really is cheaper to pay someone else to do it.
It's about peace of mind, you know?
Makes sense. But okay, let's say I decide to go with a company like Superior Ponds. That's a bigger investment up front. How do I justify that cost?
It's all about weighing the risks and benefits. Would you perform surgery on yourself to save money?
No.
Probably not. You'd find a qualified surgeon who knows what they're doing.
Okay, I see your point. It's about knowing the job will be done right the first time. But even if you're going with a professional, how do you choose the right one?
That's a great question. First things first, make sure they're licensed and insured. That protects you if anything goes wrong.
Right, always good to be safe.
And do your research. Look at online reviews. Ask for references. See if you can find examples of their work.
It's like hiring any contractor. You want to make sure they have a good reputation. Okay, so we've covered filtration, DIY versus pro, choosing a contractor. What other golden nuggets of wisdom does Superior Ponds offer?
One of the biggest things they emphasize is future planning.
I've heard them mention that.
It's so easy to get caught up in what you want right now. But you got to think about how your needs might change down the line.
So, like, I might regret not planning ahead.
It's possible. Think about it. Do you think you might want to add a waterfall later? Or maybe expand the pond for more fish?
I hadn't thought about that.
The National Association of Landscape Professionals actually did a study on this. Homeowners who plan for the future are way more satisfied with their projects in the long run.
And they probably save money too, right?
Absolutely. It's way cheaper to do it right the first time than to have to go back and make changes later.
So it's like investing in my future happiness.
You got it.
Okay, so planning for the future, choosing the right filtration, hiring a qualified pro, those are some key takeaways. But before we move on, I want our listeners to really think about this. What's your dream pond? What are your must-haves? What are you willing to compromise on? And how does all of that fit into your budget and your vision for the future? We'll be back in a minute to wrap things up. But for now, take some time to ponder those questions.
Okay, so we're back, and hopefully everyone's had a chance to daydream about their perfect pond. We've covered a lot from filtration systems that are like super high-tech to the risks of DIY pond disasters. And let's not forget planning for the future in case your pond needs to accommodate, a family of otters or something.
Hey, otters are cute, but yeah, the future planning is key.
For sure. But let's get back to the fun part. What kind of pond paradise are you envisioning?
That's the exciting part. Are you thinking more like formal and structured, with clean lines, and maybe a cool fountain as the centerpiece?
Ooh, I like that. Or are you leaning towards something more natural? With like winding edges, a waterfall, maybe some native plants to attract wildlife.
Oh, I love that idea. I can practically hear the birds singing already. But it's easy to get carried away with all the pretty stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How do we bring those dreams back down to earth and make them, actually happen?
That's where all the info we've talked about comes in.
Yeah.
Remember those factors like size, depth, filtration, landscaping, site prep, and of course, your budget.
Right.
Every decision you make kind of affects everything else.
So it's like a giant puzzle.
Exactly.
And if one piece is missing or the wrong shape, the whole thing falls apart.
And to make things even trickier, those pieces can change as your vision evolves or your budget, shifts.
So we really got to have a solid plan from the beginning.
Absolutely.
One that takes into account not just what we want now, but what we might want in the future.
You keep hitting on this future planning thing.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
I know. It's easy to forget about our future selves.
Think about it this way. You put it in this amazing pond, perfect for you right now. Then a few years down the line, you decide to build a deck overlooking the water. And suddenly, your perfect pond feels too small.
Oh, I'd be so bummed. So what, are you saying we should all plan for Olympic-sized ponds just in case?
Not necessarily. It's more about, anticipating potential changes. Maybe you don't need a huge pond right now.
Yeah.
But can you leave some space to expand later?
I see.
Or maybe you're on a tight budget now, but you'll have more wiggle room later.
So build that into the initial plan.
Exactly.
Like a little safety net for our future selves.
Exactly.
Man, I wish I'd done that with some of my other life choices.
We've all been there.
But this whole future planning thing is definitely sticking with me. It's good advice.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Companies like Superior Ponds, they can walk you through the whole process.
It's like having a pond mentor. Someone to hold your hand and tell you everything's going to be okay. Even if you decide to go with a different company or do it yourself, the main takeaways are still the same.
100%. Understand what affects the cost, do your research, plan for the future, and most importantly, don't be afraid to go for it.
Love that. Well, that brings us to the end of our pond adventure. Hopefully everyone's feeling a little more enlightened and maybe even inspired to create their own backyard oasis.
I hope so.
Remember, a pond is more than just a landscaping project. It's a way to bring a little peace and nature into your life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So until next time, happy pond planning, and thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Superior pond, superior care, your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year